I'm using Morpheus because I've been reading on forums where you have people far more intelligent than myself, intellectual critics, suggesting that in the new Matrix, the director is using colors in order to express political ideologies. So the color that Morpheus is wearing here represents libertarianism. And libertarianism is what I want to talk about because I had a conversation with a person on Discord, which I found to be quite interesting, and I want to know what you guys think, especially since I do have quite a few libertarians in the chat. And the concept of libertarianism as an ideology, if you're not familiar with it, is the idea of creating a society where there is absolutely no government. So you are free to do whatever you want. It's kind of like BioShock with Andrew Ryan creating a city at the bottom of the sea where you have no communists, you have no religion, you have absolutely nothing but libertarianism. People can do whatever they want. The artist is allowed to dream. There's no censorship. The businessman is allowed to do business. There's no taxation. And of course, the scientist is allowed to do his science. There is no petty morality to prevent him from doing whatever he wants as long as there is consensus. So if you're the person who wants the scientist to sue a new head on him, as long as both parties are consenting, then no matter how weird, bizarre, or grotesque the experiment, then the scientist can do it. So it's a very interesting proposition, creating a city like that. And what ends up failing is the very concept of what makes a person to be a libertarian. So people who want to be libertarians are usually individuals who are successful by themselves. If you're a person that happens to be suffering from a crippling condition, you're stuck in a wheelchair, you're barely able to move, it's less likely you want to be a libertarian. It's out of self-interest that you would want society to give you a hand up. Whether it is the government giving you a pension or whether it is the government mandating so businesses have stairs that are accessible for people in a wheelchair. And you most likely don't want a society where you're left to fend for yourself, because it's not in your self-interest to do so. So, in contrast, a person who wants the government to go away is a person that already has a successful business, is a person that can do things by himself, self-sufficient, self-reliant, doesn't require the government. Because from the perspective of that person, the government just takes. It doesn't view it as a beneficial contract for him. And the idea that the government gives to someone else, well, why does he need the middleman? If he wants to give to someone else, he can do it himself, right? So now that we understand why people want to be libertarians, like the mindset that makes a person adherent to this ideology, we can look in various works of fiction and try to analyze whether those works of fiction accurately represent what would happen in a libertarian society, in a libertarian commune, if you will. And one of those works of fiction, as I mentioned before, is BioShock, where you have the best and the brightest, like the people who want to be left alone, the people who are self-sufficient, going to this undercity, underwater, in order to apply their trade. And what ends up happening is that while on the outside these people are the best and brightest, when they go to this city, well, some of them have to clean the toilets. Some of them have to do the back-breaking labor. And it's incredibly humiliating for them because outside, in the real world, they might be brilliant engineers with thousands of people working under them in various factories. But in a society where everyone is self-sufficient, where everyone is a genius, they might end up being the people that are scrubbing the toilets or doing the back-breaking labor themselves. So all of a sudden, when they're placed in this position, when they're, like the Romanians like to say it, it's better to be the smartest person in your village than to be the dumbest person in the city. But when they're placed in this position where they feel inferior, well, now they want equality. Because now they just view, like, why is it fair that even though I have the same qualification as this other guy, I get to scrub the toilets while he gets to have his factory. So they will group up together, and now they're going to advocate for equality. A better example of this, and this is what convinced me, is when the other person that I was talking with brought the idea of Rick and Morty. Now, Rick and Morty, I'm pretty sure everyone knows the TV show. It's about a super genius by the name of Rick who has an ability to travel between dimensions. He's a genius inventor and blah, blah, blah. But within the show, you have the concept of the Citadel of Ricks. And the Citadel of Ricks is this place created by the Ricks in order to avoid the galaxy government. And the city is run by only Ricks, right? So it's the same guy, and some of the Ricks, they end up being very high up. They end up being politicians, they end up being business owners, they end up being respectable people, while other Ricks, they end up being the garbage man. They end up cleaning the toilets. And again, it's the same guy. So how does the Rick cleaning up the toilet justify his position? He probably has a lot of resentment, because think about it, like, this guy is a genius. I mean, he creates a portal gun that allows him to go through other dimensions. I mean, in any universe, he is the smartest guy, but because he is now in a city with other people just as smart as him, he might just be a little dumber than everyone else. He might be like the dumbest genius in the room, and that makes him clean the toilets. So, like, these Ricks would probably join together and demand equality. So what's funny about this is that when you actually get equality, which, if we're honest, can only be done by getting the Rick at the top to push him all the way down to the bottom. You can't get the people at the bottom and elevate them to the top. It's very difficult, doesn't work. So it's a lot easier to take the people at the top and push them to the bottom. So when you have equality, when you have all of this powerful government that's keeping people down, well, now you yet again have a desire for libertarianism. So people want, the oppression to end. And it seems to be like a cycle, right? You have like people wanting freedom, and then they get freedom, and as they get freedom, they become jealous and spiteful because their neighbors have more than them. So then they're more likely to advocate for someone more powerful than them, a government, to lower their neighbors to their level. And when that happens, other people in society say, no, like, this government's so oppressive, we need to get rid of it. And the cycle just begins anew. So I'm really curious, like, what do you guys think about this? Like, is it a paradox why a pure libertarian society can't exist? Because people will just demand for a government eventually, and that government will just reset the cycle. I'm really curious to see what you guys have to say in the comment section, and I'll see you all there.